Have you ever stood still in the middle of your own chaos and felt a storm brewing inside you? Rage, sadness, fear, longing, rising like invisible tides from somewhere deeper than thought. Have you tried to manage it, to fix it, to silence it with logic, distraction, or a smile that didn't reach your soul? What if I told you you were never meant to control your emotions? What if emotions weren't meant to be caged, redirected, or denied, but felt fully in sacred presence? What if every emotion was a wave of energy, a messenger from your soul, not to be feared or fought, but to be heard? Today, we're not going to teach you how to master your emotions. We're going to invite you to listen to them as you would to the ocean. Because emotions are frequencies, and you, yes, you, are a living antenna, vibrating in harmony or dissonance with your own truth. And it is not your job to suppress the wave, but to ride it. Not your duty to control the storm, but to become still enough to feel its wisdom. In this fast-paced, hyper-rational world, emotions are often treated as obstacles, noisy, irrational, inconvenient. We're taught to manage them, stay positive, think our way out of fear, anger, sadness. But beneath that conditioning lies a forgotten truth. Emotions are not problems, they are signals. They are sacred currents of energy and motion, emotion, that carry messages from your inner world to your conscious awareness. Dr. David R. Hawkins, in his groundbreaking work on the map of consciousness, revealed something many ancient wisdom traditions already knew. Each emotion has a specific vibrational frequency. Shame, guilt, and apathy resonate at the lowest levels, dense, heavy, disempowering. As you move up through grief, fear, anger, and into courage, acceptance, love, peace, the vibration becomes lighter, clearer, closer to your essence. Emotions then are not bad or good. They are directional. Some lift you, some weigh you down, all speak. But here's the challenge. We don't listen. We react. We run. We numb. We analyze. We try to manage the wave rather than surrender to it. And in doing so, we lose the profound intelligence that every emotion holds. So in this episode, we won't be fixing emotions. We'll be feeling them. We'll learn to track the wave, read its frequency, and transmute the energy, not by force, but through presence, breath, and compassionate awareness. Because the truth is simple and powerful. You don't heal by resisting what you feel. You heal by feeling it fully, without judgment. Part 1. Emotions as frequency, the science behind the feeling. Everything in the universe vibrates. This is not a metaphor, it's a fact of physics. From the spinning electrons in your atoms to the distant spirals of galaxies, all matter is energy in motion. And you too are not a fixed object. You are a field of vibrating light and sound, moving, pulsing, responding to invisible waves within and around you. Now consider this, if you are vibration, then what are your emotions? Emotions are not random inner weather, they are energetic signatures. Each one, shame, joy, grief, courage, serenity, carries a unique frequency, a distinct vibration that can be measured, felt, and even seen by sensitive instruments or trained intuition. When you feel shame, your whole system contracts. Blood flow changes, breathing tightens, posture closes. When you feel love, your field expands, your chest opens, breath deepens, brain waves shift, heart rhythms synchronize into coherence. This isn't poetic language, it's observable physiology, and beneath it all, vibrational truth. Dr. David R. Hawkins, a visionary psychiatrist and spiritual teacher, created what is now known as the map of consciousness, a scale that assigns numerical values to different emotional states based on their energetic calibration. Shame ranks at the very bottom, 20, followed by guilt, apathy, grief, fear, and anger. As you rise through neutrality, willingness, and reason, you eventually reach love, 500, joy, peace, and enlightenment, up to 1,000. This map isn't just theoretical. It correlates with muscle testing, consciousness studies, and the subjective experience of countless individuals across cultures. When your dominant emotional state vibrates at a higher level, your health improves, your perception broadens, and your external life begins to shift to match your internal tone. Imagine you are a tuning fork. Every thought, every memory, every unspoken emotion sends out waves that either resonate or dissonate with your being. Your emotions are the sound you're broadcasting, and the sound you're attracting in return. This is why two people can be in the same room and live in entirely different realities. One may walk through life in gratitude, vibrating at a frequency that draws synchronicity, kindness, and beauty. The other, locked in bitterness, emits a tone that echoes frustration, resistance, and chaos. The world responds not to your intentions, but to your frequency. And your frequency is shaped by your emotional state. Now pause, ask yourself, what frequency have I been living in lately? Not what you say you believe, not what you wish for, but what you actually feel, moment to moment. That's the signal you're sending into the field. If you felt heavy, you're not broken. You're just vibrating at a denser level. And frequencies can shift, that's the miracle. Emotions are not fixed, they flow. If you allow them to move through you, to be honored rather than suppressed, their vibration can be transmuted. Science is beginning to affirm what mystics have always whispered, that consciousness affects matter, that your emotional state affects your cells, your heartbeat, your hormones, your relationships. The HeartMath Institute has shown that positive emotional states, like compassion or appreciation, generate heart rhythms that are not only healthier for the body, but also radiate into the environment. Your emotional field affects others. In groups, shared emotion creates a collective frequency that can either heal or harm, elevate or suppress. This is why presence matters. This is why your feelings are not just personal, they are powerful. But let's be clear, this is not a license for spiritual bypassing. You don't fake a higher frequency by pretending to be happy. You don't manifest peace by denying grief. You shift vibration not by escaping what is low, but by feeling it fully, giving it breath, giving it space, and letting it evolve. Energy in motion, emotion wants to move. It's when we resist it that it crystallizes into pain. So the next time you feel anger, know that it's not a flaw, it's a wave. A dense one, yes, but also full of fire, power, protection. When you feel sadness, don't run. It's the vibration of softening, of depth, of surrender. And when you feel joy, let it ripple through you, amplify it, ride its resonance like music you forgot was yours. Because when you understand that every emotion is a tone, a texture of energy, you stop fighting your feelings, and you start listening. You are not here to manage your emotions like a machine. You are here to tune to them like an instrument. To become more attuned, more alive, more present. Emotions are not barriers to your awakening. They are pathways. They are the symphony of your soul, echoing through your body. And when you begin to live with that awareness, you will speak less from reaction and more from resonance. You will stop blaming your pain and start honoring its frequency. And the world will feel different, not because it changed, but because you finally heard the music underneath it all. Part 2, the emotional compass, learning to read the signals. What if you stopped seeing your emotions as moods and began seeing them as maps? Every emotion that rises within you carries direction. It is not there to disrupt your day, ruin your peace, or test your spiritual maturity. It is a compass, subtle, living, luminous, pointing you toward alignment or reminding you of where you've strayed from it. The problem is, most of us were never taught how to read the language of feeling. We were taught to label, to suppress, to rationalize, but rarely to feel, rarely to listen, and almost never to trust. Imagine you are a traveler walking through unknown terrain. You wouldn't curse the compass for spinning. You would pause. You would adjust your orientation. You would ask, what is it trying to show me? Your emotions are like that. They spin when something inside you is out of alignment, with your values, with your truth, with your boundaries, with your soul. Take anger, for example. So often feared, shamed, or misused. But anger at its core is not evil. It is a flare sent up by your being to signal violation, injustice, or suppressed truth. It's not a monster, it's a guardian. It says something sacred in you needs protecting. When listened to with presence, not acted out in violence or swallowed into silence, anger becomes power. Clean, clear, catalytic. Fear, too, is misunderstood. We think of it as a weakness to be conquered, a shadow to be extinguished. But fear is intelligent. It narrows your focus when you are overwhelmed. It heightens your instincts when danger is near. It signals caution where discernment is needed. The problem is not fear itself. It's when fear becomes your baseline, your worldview, your lens on reality. That's when it turns from protector into prison. But when met with breath and awareness, fear can become clarity. It can become the whisper that says, go slowly, but go. Then there's grief, heavy, slow, hollow, the emotion we are most afraid to feel because it threatens to swallow us whole. But grief is not the enemy of joy. It is its twin. Grief arises only where love once lived. It is the echo of something meaningful that has been lost, or perhaps something true within you that has been buried. Grief is not weakness, it is the depth of your humanity. And if you let it move through you, if you hold it without rushing, it carves space in you for greater compassion. Grief stretches your vessel so you can hold more light. And then, above these, there are the higher frequencies: acceptance, willingness, joy, peace. They don't scream, they don't demand attention. They arrive softly like a morning breeze, and many people miss them because they are waiting for something louder. But these emotions are your signal that you are attuned, that you are resonating closer to your natural state. They don't mean your life is perfect, they mean you're not resisting what is. Emotions then are neither good nor bad, they are directional. Each one either pulls you upward or drags you downward. And when you start to pay attention, not just to how they feel, but to where they point, you start to reclaim your power. You stop asking, "Why am I feeling this?" and start asking, "Where is this trying to take me?" Like a compass, emotions always point somewhere, towards something that needs healing, something that needs honoring, or something that's ready to be released. But if you don't listen, the signal gets louder. The sadness becomes depression. The anger becomes resentment. The fear becomes paralysis. And eventually, the body begins to speak what the heart has been holding back. Symptoms appear, fatigue creeps in, disconnection becomes the new normal. But when you learn to read the signal early, to pause, breathe, and feel without judgment, you catch the wave before it crashes. You don't drown in it, you ride it. You say, "Ah, I see you, anger, thank you. What boundary have I ignored?" Or, "I feel you, sadness. What have I lost that I have not yet allowed myself to mourn?" Or, "Hello, fear. What uncertainty am I facing that needs more compassion and presence?" This is the art of emotional navigation. You stop being a reactor. You become a responder. You become a traveler who knows how to read the inner winds. The truth is, no one teaches us this in school. Most of us grew up with caregivers who didn't know how to feel their own feelings, let alone help us with ours. So we adapted, we numbed, we avoided, we over-explained. But deep inside, the emotional compass never stops spinning. It's still there, waiting to be trusted. When you begin to follow it, to read the frequency beneath the feeling, you start walking a different path. Not ruled by external expectations, but guided by internal resonance. You live from the inside out, not the outside in. You no longer ask others what you should do. You ask your body, your breath, your heart, and you listen for the tone beneath the words. Because the body always knows, the breath always tells the truth, and emotions, they never lie. They are the sacred compass of your human and divine experience, pointing you home, one vibration at a time. Part 3. When suppression becomes distortion. We've all done it, turned away from a feeling that was too loud, too raw, too inconvenient. We've buried the tears behind a smile. We've clenched our jaw to silence the scream. We've numbed the ache with distraction, told ourselves to move on, or tried to rise above what we never truly met. But here's the truth no one wants to admit: what you suppress does not disappear. It waits, it compresses, it distorts. When you push an emotion down, you are not erasing it. You are locking it into the architecture of your nervous system. You are tucking it away into the body's quiet chambers, the tight chest, the clenched gut, the chronic pain that no medical scan can quite explain. Emotions are energy, and energy is never destroyed, it is simply transferred. When denied its natural flow, it mutates. Joy becomes anxiety, grief becomes numbness, anger becomes fatigue. The sharpness fades, but the weight remains. And over time, these invisible weights begin to shape your reality. You find yourself reacting to things that don't warrant such intensity. You misinterpret the present through the lens of past pain. A simple disagreement feels like betrayal. An unmet expectation triggers rage. A moment of silence feels like abandonment. You're not broken, you're full of unexpressed waves that were never allowed to complete their motion. This is not your fault. You live in a world that prizes composure over honesty, performance over presence, efficiency over embodiment. From a young age, you were likely praised for being calm, strong, well-behaved, when what you actually needed was someone to sit with your anger, your sadness, your confusion, and simply say, "Yes, I feel it too, and it's okay." So you learn to adapt. You learn to hide. You learn to function while internally fragmented. But suppression is not healing, it is postponement. And the longer emotion is held underground, the more distorted it becomes. It leaks out sideways, through sarcasm, withdrawal, overthinking, control. It grows in darkness and feeds on avoidance. And one day, the very energy you were trying to outrun becomes the prison you live inside. Here's what's even more profound. Suppression doesn't just affect you, it affects your frequency. When you suppress, your vibration lowers. Not because you're less spiritual, but because you're out of sync with truth. Truth is high frequency. Authenticity is coherence. Denial, on the other hand, fragments your field. It splits your presence. You appear calm on the outside, but the energy is fractured and others can feel it, even if they don't know what they're feeling. This is why some rooms feel heavy, why some conversations feel off, why some people exhaust you without saying a single harsh word. It's not the words, it's the unspoken, the suppressed, the weight of unacknowledged energy that vibrates below the surface. And you carry it too, until you choose to meet it instead of manage it. But what does meeting an emotion look like? It starts with honesty, a sacred pause, a willingness to feel the discomfort without immediately fixing it. It might look like letting yourself cry without apologizing, like admitting you're afraid instead of pretending you're fine, like sitting with the old ache in your chest and asking, "What are you still holding for me?" Emotions are intelligent. They don't need you to solve them. They need to be seen, heard, felt, fully. When you stop suppressing, you don't lose control. You regain connection. You begin to inhabit your body again. You soften, your breath deepens. You notice that the tension you've carried for years isn't permanent. It was just a message waiting to be received. And when it is, the distortion begins to dissolve. The energy completes its cycle. And you are no longer defined by what you didn't feel. You are liberated by what you finally did. You begin to realize the pain wasn't the problem. The avoidance was. The grief wasn't the enemy. The refusal to grieve was. The anger wasn't your shame. The silencing of your truth was. And in that moment, something opens. Something ancient. Something true. A reconnection with the most sacred part of you, the part that never needed to be fixed, only felt. You do not heal by rising above your emotions. You heal by sinking into them with gentleness. You do not return to wholeness by bypassing the storm. You walk into the center of it with eyes open, knowing that you are not the chaos. You are the presence within it. And when you do, the distortion clears. The signal becomes pure again. And you remember, emotion is not weakness. It is the voice of your soul. The wave that once felt returns you to stillness. Part 4. The myth of control. Why emotional management fails. We've been told a lie so often it became a rule, that we must manage our emotions, that a mature person controls how they feel, filters what they express, keeps their inner world in order like a well-polished desk. We're taught that sadness must be tidied, that anger must be sedated, that fear must be crushed by logic. The world applauds the composed, the unshakable, the smiling mask. But beneath that applause is a quiet collapse, because something essential is being strangled, something wild, something true, something human. Control is the religion of the wounded ego. It tells you that safety lies in suppression, that freedom is found in dominance, that feeling too much makes you weak. But let's be honest, how often has controlling your feelings truly brought you peace? Not just a moment of relief, but deep, soul-level stillness? How often has keeping it together left you more whole, more alive? Or has it merely dulled the blade of emotion, leaving it to rust quietly inside you? To control emotion is to misunderstand its nature. Emotion is not a static thing. It is a current, a flow, a wave. Its job is not to stay in place, but to move. And when you try to hold it down, freeze it, mold it into an acceptable shape, you block the flow of life itself. You become a dammed river, still on the surface, pressurized underneath. Eventually, something breaks. True healing begins when you abandon the myth of control and enter the art of presence. Not to become passive, not to be overwhelmed, but to become spacious. To let emotion rise like mist and fall like rain, without clutching or pushing. To feel without dramatizing, to soften without collapsing. To say quietly, "Yes, I feel you, you may move through." Because emotions, when given permission, are temporary. It is only our resistance that makes them linger. This is not weakness. This is mastery. the warrior who feels fully and expresses wisely, the mystic who holds grief and joy in the same breath, the sovereign who allows energy to move through them rather than control it. In truth, managing emotion often means fearing it, and fear of feeling is what keeps you locked in the very patterns you long to escape. There is no need to fix sadness. It will shift when it has delivered its message. There is no need to suppress anger. It will settle when it has been heard and honored. You don't have to conquer fear, you have to sit beside it until it no longer feels alone. When you do, emotion ceases to be a monster, it becomes music, and you become the dancer, fluid, awake, whole. Control says this is too much. Presence says this is real. Control says silence the storm. Presence says breathe through it. Control says don't feel that. Presence whispers feel it all and you will be free. You were never meant to manage emotions like spreadsheets. You were meant to ride them like waves. Some high, some low, some soft, some crushing, but all of them honest, all of them yours. And once you stop trying to be okay and start being real, a new kind of power rises. A power not born of control, but of coherence. Not of suppression, but of sacred surrender. And in that surrender, you don't lose yourself. You find the you that was waiting beneath the surface all along. Part 5. The sacred pause. How to feel safely without drowning. There is a moment, so quiet it's easy to miss, between the rising of emotion and the story we tell about it. A sliver of stillness before the reaction. A breath before the wave crashes. Most of us skip it. We feel a surge, fear, anger, grief, and we either run or drown. We tighten or collapse. We react or retreat. But in that small sacred space, there's a choice, and that choice can change everything. This is the pause. Not a delay, but a doorway. Not resistance, but reverence. It is the space where you meet the rawness of emotion without being engulfed by it, where you allow the feeling to exist without letting it become your identity. And it is in this pause that healing begins. Because emotions left unexamined carry momentum. They build stories, they revive memories, they latch onto beliefs. I feel abandoned becomes no one ever stays. I feel anxious becomes something must be wrong with me. But in the pause, you can catch it. You can say, wait, this is a wave, let me breathe first. And in that breath, a miracle unfolds. You move from identification to observation. From I am this emotion to I am the space it's moving through. Feeling safely doesn't mean suppressing intensity. It means creating inner capacity. The pause is where you widen yourself, like a shoreline that lets the ocean crash without being destroyed. It's where you remind the nervous system, we are not in danger, we are in sensation. And from that grounded awareness, you learn to ride the wave rather than being swept beneath it. You don't need to handle it, you need to hold it. You need to make room. And the breath, always the breath, is your sacred tool. With each inhale, you say yes to what arises. With each exhale, you soften the grip. Breath creates space, and space is where the distortion of the emotion unwinds, where the charge dissolves, where the energy becomes movement again instead of blockage. The sacred pause is not just a technique, it is a way of being, a way of honoring your experience without judgment, a way of saying to your inner world, you matter, I'm listening. I don't need to fix you, I just need to stay. That staying is what your inner child needed, what your body still craves, what your soul has always trusted. And you may cry or tremble or sit in silence with a pressure in your chest. Let it be, let it speak. Let it move. The pause is not always comfortable, but it is always true. It is the moment you come home to yourself, not by force, but by presence. To feel safely is not to avoid depth, but to learn how to sink with awareness, to descend into emotion while still holding a thread of self. It's the difference between falling and floating, between being consumed and being conscious. You are not fragile, you are vast. And every time you pause, breathe, and feel, without rushing, without reacting, you widen the space inside you. You build trust. You deepen your vessel. You become a safe place for your own waves to rise and fall. And one day, when another soul comes to you in their storm, you'll sit beside them, not with advice, not with fear, but with the stillness you've cultivated inside. And they'll feel it. The peace, the permission, the knowing. And they'll remember how to pause too. Because presence is contagious, stillness is medicine, and you, when you pause, become the space where emotion transforms into light. Part 6. Breath as the bridge between energy and mind. Before you knew how to speak, before you knew how to think, even before anyone ever called your name for the first time, you were already breathing. From that very first moment, breath became the silent rhythm of your life, the invisible thread connecting your body and your soul. Yet few people realize that breath is not only the essence of life, it is a doorway. A quiet, powerful bridge that links a racing mind to the vibrating depth of your inner energy. When you're anxious, your breath shortens. When you're sad, it slows and feels heavy. When you're angry, it becomes sharp and compressed. But when you are calm and present, your breath becomes light like the morning breeze. That is not a coincidence, it's a signal. Breath is a mirror reflecting your emotional state and the vibrational frequency you are living in. Breath serves as a bridge between thought and sensation, between the physical and the spiritual, between who you believe you are and what you are truly resonating within. And the miraculous truth is this: when you change your breath, you change your frequency. You don't need to understand every thought racing through your mind. You just need to breathe, slightly slower, slightly deeper, slightly more mindfully. Because in every breath lies ancient wisdom, not born of logic, but of connection. Every time you bring your awareness back to your breath, you return to your body, to emotions that haven't been named, to the vibrational space where all healing begins. When emotions rise, intensely or gently, fiercely or faintly, you don't need to react. You don't need to flee or try to manage them. You only need to breathe with them. As your breath slows, the energy begins to soften. As your breath deepens, you are no longer controlled by the emotion. You become the space that holds it. You are no longer the storm. You are the sky that embraces the storm. From ancient times, humans have understood that breath does more than nourish the lungs. It carries the soul. In India, they call it prana. In China, it's known as qi. In Latin, the word spiritus means both breath and spirit. This means that every time you breathe consciously, you are reconnecting with the sacred within yourself. No elaborate rituals are needed. No poetic language is required. Just one breath that reaches the core of your body and mind, and you begin to return to the purest, most original form of your energy. And then you begin to see. When you breathe with your emotions instead of silencing them, you no longer fear them. You become the space through which they pass, like wind through the trees, like waves brushing the shore. You realize you are not the fear, you are not the anger, you are not the sorrow. You are the presence breathing with all of it, without denial, without labels, without judgment. In that space, you are no longer separated from yourself. You don't need control to feel safe. You only need breath to feel present. Breath is the place where emotions are allowed to flow, to dissolve, to transform once more into light. Part 7. The body remembers. Emotions stored in cells. Your body doesn't speak in words. It doesn't argue, doesn't analyze, doesn't require logic, but it remembers silently, persistently, and precisely. Every emotion you once refused to face, every moment you forced a smile while your heart was breaking, every nod you gave instead of the no you swallowed, all of it is recorded. Not in your memory, but in your skin, your bones, your heartbeat, your breath, your muscles, your posture, and in the unexplained fatigue you carry. The body doesn't forget. It is the first to feel the wound and the last to let it go, unless you return and truly listen. Think about the last time fear made you tremble. Your hands went cold, your stomach clenched, your chest felt like it was being pressed down. That wasn't just a chemical reaction. It was a wave of energy, an emotional vibration trying to move through your body. But when you held it in, swallowed it down, pretended to stay calm, that wave didn't disappear. It was buried, and it stayed day after day, year after year, until something small in the present unknowingly triggered it, and that entire buried energy rose up as if from nowhere. Unhealed wounds don't live in the past. They exist right now, only deeper. In your back, which tenses every time you carry burdens too heavy. In your shoulders, where words unsaid have quietly taken shelter. In your throat, where laughter was forced to mask truth. In your legs, which have long wanted to run from memories you're afraid to face. And in your heart, where unnamed emotions still ache in silence. Your body doesn't betray you. It doesn't hurt you to punish you. It hurts to signal something. It is the drumbeat of your soul, pulsing every time something within you has been forgotten. It speaks in symptoms. in pulses, in shallow breath, in unexplained exhaustion, and it will keep speaking until you stop running, stop analyzing, and start placing your hand over the pain with the gentle presence of an old friend returning after years apart. Healing doesn't lie in how well you understand your emotions, but in whether you're willing to feel them, in the body. Are you willing to breathe into the tightness in your lower belly, to listen to the aching in your chest, to gently touch the shoulders that have been tensed for so long? Not to fix, not to cleanse, but simply to say one thing: I see you, I'm still here. And when you truly show up, when you stop trying to repair the body like a broken machine and begin to relate to it as a living being carrying your memory, something miraculous begins to happen. The body starts to soften. Frozen energy begins to melt. Old dreams come rushing back. Long-buried emotions rise to the surface. And you realize you are not merely a survivor. You are someone returning home. Home to the body you've abandoned for far too long. So don't just listen to the mind. Listen to the silence in your spine. Feel the message beneath your heartbeat. Ask your legs what they've been running from. Let the old tears, the ones that never got to fall, quietly make their way through your skin. Not to escape emotion, but to let it return to where it belongs, through breath, through presence, through the body, where truth has never lied. Part 8. Energy cleansing. When the body needs rest and the soul also needs purification. There are days when you don't know why you feel tired. Nothing serious has happened, but your body feels heavy, your mind is overflowing, and your emotions are tangled in ways you can't name. You go to sleep, yet it never feels like enough rest. You sit in silence, but your heart remains noisy. You're not sad, not angry, not afraid, but neither are you truly at peace. That's not confusion. That's a signal. It may have been far too long since you last did this, cleansed your energy. Just like your body needs washing, your clothes need cleaning, your living space needs tidying, your life energy also needs purification. Every conversation you listen to, every emotion you absorb, every environment you walk through, leaves a trace in your surrounding energy field. Even though you can't see them, they are real. They remain like invisible dust, slowly accumulating into exhaustion, static, and subtle distortions that pull you away from your natural clarity and lightness. Energy cleansing isn't a mystical practice. It's a subtle and essential act of living, just like taking a deep breath or drinking water. It's the art of resetting your inner space, not to become better, but to return to your natural state, where you feel light, clear, luminous, and aware of who you are. There are many ways to cleanse. It doesn't require complexity or religion, just presence and a clear intention. I want to return to the unclouded truth of who I am. Maybe you choose to breathe, slowly, deeply, consciously, and let each breath carry away fragments of old energy that no longer serve you. Maybe you sit in meditation, allowing inner noise to settle, sensing transparency spreading from within. Maybe you write down the burdens you've been carrying for too long and burn the page as a gesture of handing them back to the universe. Maybe you walk into nature, barefoot on earth, bathing in the morning sun, resting beside a tree, and let nature draw out what no longer fits your energy. Sound can also purify. The ring of a bell, flowing water, healing music, these aren't just pleasant, they are frequencies passing through you, tuning your energetic rhythm in ways language cannot reach. Light, especially natural light, can expand your energy field when it's been tightened by stress. Water, when you bathe, soak your feet, or drink mindfully, can become a cleansing current that washes the invisible layers of energy you carry day after day. And above all, forgiveness is one of the most powerful forms of purification. Not just forgiveness for others, but for yourself. For carrying too much for too long. For holding on to things that were never yours. For forgetting that you deserve to live lightly. Forgiveness dissolves emotional residue in your energetic field, the broken areas, the worn spaces frayed by blame and self-denial, so you can mend your being with the gentleness that's been buried for far too long. Energy cleansing isn't something you do once. It is a living ritual, a practice for every day. Like a whisper to your soul, I'm still listening. I'm still holding space for you. I still choose clarity. And when you live this way, you don't just become lighter, you become a healing energy field. A space where others walk in and feel they can breathe. a presence that quietly brightens every room you touch, even if you say nothing. Because your light doesn't shine through what you do. It radiates through the frequency you choose to live in. Part 9. Raising your vibrational frequency. When you live as a luminous being, there's something important you need to know. You don't have to try to become higher in energy. You simply need to let go of the layers that have dimmed your light. A high vibration doesn't come from saying positive things, pretending to be okay, or hiding the darker parts of yourself. It comes from inner purity. When you live truthfully with yourself, in each breath, each choice, each moment of presence. High frequency isn't about being constantly cheerful. It's not about sweet words or forced optimism. A high frequency is when you can touch your true self without resistance. It's when you can sit with sadness without falling into despair. It's when you can feel anger rise and still not lose your awareness. It's when you're spacious enough to hold both light and shadow, like the sky that rejects no cloud. When you raise your vibration, you're not adding anything to yourself. You're releasing blame, releasing the need to control, releasing outdated beliefs, releasing the habit of self-rejection. And as each of those layers falls away, you begin to shine, not through effort, but through the natural frequency of a soul that was never truly dimmed. Your frequency affects everything: how you see life, how others feel around you, how the universe responds to your quiet, unspoken wishes. When you live in the vibration of gratitude, you attract more to be grateful for. When you vibrate with a sense of enoughness, you stop chasing. When you choose love, unconditional, without seeking return, you become the place where love is born, no longer needing to search for it. Raising your vibration doesn't require elaborate rituals. Sometimes it begins with the smallest act: speaking your truth where you once avoided it, apologizing where you once stayed silent, placing your hand over your heart instead of bracing yourself through the rising wave of emotion. It could be walking in silence, staring at the sky longer than usual, turning off your phone just to hear your inner voice again. Each act, when done with awareness, becomes a new wavelength, one that lifts you out of old energetic patterns, anxiety, judgment, control, tension, and moves you into a new current: freedom, authenticity, clarity. Raising your frequency doesn't mean you'll no longer feel negative emotions. You'll still have sad days, soft moments, unexpected fears, but the difference is, you no longer run from them. You're no longer pulled under. You greet them, you breathe with them, and you let them go. You no longer resist life. You move with it, like a melody, where every high and low note has a role to play in the symphony you're composing. And then, small but clear changes begin to appear. Negative people drift away on their own. Softer opportunities arrive. Old dreams no longer feel big enough. Conversations deepen. Creativity returns. Intuition sharpens. Not because you forced it, but because you changed your frequency, and everything in your reality adjusted accordingly. So let everything you do, every thought, every word, every action, carry the energy of conscious choice. Ask yourself each day, does this lift me up or pull me down? Choose light, not because it's easy, but because you're brave enough to no longer need the darkness to protect you. You don't need to run anywhere. You don't need to climb to any mountaintop. The highest frequency is already within you, right beneath the armor, right behind the sigh you've never let yourself fully breathe. Part 10. Energy and Destiny. You are not controlled by fate, you are broadcasting it. Some people live their whole lives in a state of stagnation, not because they didn't try, but because they didn't realize they were broadcasting frequencies that contradicted what they truly desired. They long for love but vibrate with the fear of abandonment. They crave peace but operate on the frequency of control. They dream of freedom, but every thought and action carries the signal of strain and limitation. And eventually they conclude, this is just my fate. But the truth is, life does not respond to what you want. It responds to the frequency you're living in. Every person is a transmitter. Every thought you nurture, every emotion you repeat, every belief you carry, whether quietly or loudly, creates a field of vibration around you. That vibrational field is the map of the destiny you are living. It doesn't come from the outside. It's not written by someone else. It's woven moment by moment through the inner state you maintain each day. And the miracle is, you can change it. You don't have to change other people. You don't have to conquer your circumstances. You only have to change yourself from within through the frequency you choose to emit. If you live in fear, even if your words speak of hope, life will echo back situations that intensify your fear. If you vibrate with gratitude, even if life isn't perfect, you'll find yourself supported, gifted, and surrounded by small daily miracles. Not because the universe favors you, but because the universe is a mirror. It doesn't reflect what you want, it reflects what you are. So don't just ask, what do I want? Ask instead, what frequency am I vibrating at? Be honest. Are you broadcasting a frequency of sacrifice, of control, of need? Or are you broadcasting one of ease, of trust, of clarity? Look at your life as subtle feedback. If you keep attracting repetitive patterns, perhaps you are replaying the same old frequency loop, not to blame yourself, but to reclaim your power. Because you are not the product of fate. You are the broadcaster of it, one vibration at a time. When you live in a higher frequency, you don't just shift your own energy, you shift your reality. Things that no longer match you fall away on their own. People who resonate with your new rhythm begin to appear. Ideas, creativity, and opportunities become clearer and more aligned. Not because you're trying to attract them, but because you've become someone who naturally vibrates in harmony with those things. And then you'll realize you don't need to control your destiny. You just need to choose your frequency every day. You don't have to walk around worrying, will what I want come true? You only have to ask, am I vibrating in alignment with the truth of my soul? When the answer is yes, everything else will align itself. You become a living field of attraction. You no longer chase or hold on. You simply live with the light already inside you and let life echo back a symphony that matches that vibration. You have never been ruled by destiny. Destiny is not a rope around your neck. It is an energetic current you are walking with, and you can always change its flow with nothing more than a deep enough presence, a conscious enough breath, and a truthfully chosen moment. So for now, don't try to do anything else. Just sit still. Place your hand on your chest and softly ask, what am I broadcasting to the universe? The answer will come, not through words, but through vibration. You don't need to know everything to begin living truthfully with yourself. You don't have to decode your entire spiritual map, reach some distant level of enlightenment, or become someone else. You only need one thing: to choose your frequency again, right here, in this very moment. Wherever you are on this journey, whether in the low vibrations of sadness, fear, or numbness, or gradually moving toward light, gratitude, and peace, the miracle is this: you are still vibrating. And as long as you're still vibrating, you still have the power to choose a new frequency. There is no wrong emotion. No vibration makes you less spiritual. Every feeling, every wave, every state you pass through is part of the soul's song, one that longs to be heard in full. You don't need to be fast. You don't need to be strong. You don't need to be positive all the time. You only need to be honest, present, gentle with yourself, and to breathe as if each breath were a bridge that brings you home. Because in the end, you are not the wave. You are the eternal rhythm beneath all the waves. You are not the fear. You are the space vast enough to let fear pass through. You are not an old, predetermined fate. You are the frequency rewriting it, every single day, with every vibrational choice you make. And if you feel even the slightest shift within after reading this, if something subtle has stirred in your heart, then perhaps something deep inside you has already begun to awaken. And maybe, just maybe, a small door has already opened. The only question left is, are you willing to step through it? If this video has touched something within you, a memory, a forgotten feeling, or simply a quiet whisper you once heard but never dared to believe, then please like, subscribe, and share it with the souls still finding their way home. Because we are not walking alone. We are walking together,